We should never allow the government to decide what is acceptable speech and what is unacceptable speech. We should penalize behaviors, not opinions, and not speech. If you start trying to regulate speech, you start trying to regulate thoughts, you start trying to regulate beliefs rather than behaviors, there's no way that you're not going to abridge the constitutional rights of millions of Americans.
Epilogue. The Prisoner premise. Because of an identifying character, Potter, who appeared as a shoeshiner in one episode of The Prisoner, it is assumed the Prisoner series was a continuation of Secret Agent Man. Oddly, Patrick McGoohan would never elaborate as to the real premise of the show. Ironically, the following description was found in a book of television series that was published in 1976 and gave the following overview of the series. It is worth noting these facts since most of this was never explained other than when Drake awoke in his home inside the village. Assigned to locate a missing scientist, Secret Agent John Drake permits him to defect to Russia. Later we find the scientist is now living in Austria under another name and is a hair groomer, when he discovers the nature of the doctor's work, to complete a deadly mind transference device. Returning to England and reprimanded for his actions, Drake resigns, feeling it is a matter of principle. Leaving the ministry building, he is unknowingly followed by a mysterious black-clothed gentleman. Entering the hallway of his own apartment, the gentleman places a nozzle in the keyhole and releases gas that knocks Drake unconscious. Awakening, Drake finds himself in a strange room. He discovers that he is no longer a man, but a number 6 and the prisoner of a self-contained community known as the Village, a flowery, courtyard, fantasy-like area bordered by mountains and ocean, a place from which there is no escape. Continuing his probe, he enters the Green Dome and meets one of the leaders, number 2. Though unable to discover who his captors are, or where the village is, he learns the reason for his abduction. It's a question of your resignation. A lot of people are curious about why you suddenly left. The information in your head is priceless. A man like you is worth a great deal on the open market. It's my job to check your motives. Stories depict his attempts to discover the identity of number 1 and who his captors are, and his desperate attempts to escape from the village. In the last episode, proving himself extraordinary, unable to be broken by exhaustive mind-bending experiments, Drake, after defeating number 2, is led to an area below the village. There, he is presented to an assembly, recognized as an individual, a man superior to them, and give a choice, leave or remain and lead the people of the village. Undecided, he is taken to see number 1. Met by his only friend, the silent butler, he is led through a heavily guarded hallway and to a room, containing highly complex machinery, that is designed to destroy him. Discovering that the room is a trap, he, the silent butler, and 2 system revolters, number 2, imprisoned for failing to defeat number 6, and number 48 join forces. Overpowering the guards, the machines are disengaged and reset to destruct. Boarding a truck, the 4 escape through an underground tunnel as the inner workings of the village are destroyed. Approaching London, though this premise was not true because he escaped the village and found in an earlier episode that it was located off the coast of Morocco, Spain, the truck stops. Numbers 2 and 48 depart, number 6, a free man, and the silent butler remain a team. Re-entering his home, the door closes behind, implying that he is still a prisoner of his own home, hence the silent butler's need to be his assistant. Intriguing, highly imaginative, and at times complex, the prisoner requires one's full and uninterrupted attention to appreciate it fully.
I now give my impressions of what The Prisoner was about and why most still think of it as a psychedelic cult classic show. Originally aired on CBS television from 1967 to 1968, it means many different things. In my opinion, the village was operated by his own government to make certain that he would not defect himself to a foreign government for the purposes of selling out his country to the highest bidder. In many episodes, every indication showed proof that his own government orchestrated his escapes, and eventually he was sent back to the village, even though we even believed he had reached civilization. They truly showed that he was a free man because they never forced him to live the way they wanted him to in his own apartment, so they controlled where he lived, and that proved he was also a prisoner of himself. The epilogue you just heard was never explained in the opening pilot Arrival. He just wakes up in the village and so begins his many escapades to escape from this isolated island. In the series, he was given the mind transference that the scientist had designed, and they sent him as another person to find this scientist, who Drake eventually found had gone to Austria. This proved again that the government had perfected the machine and used it against Drake himself to show them he was an agent until the end of the series. He knew how to find the scientist using his skills as an agent and even showed them where the scientist was. Then, the scientist gave his own life to bring Drake back into his own body. Why wouldn't they explain all of this in the Arrival pilot, since it left so many questions about why he resigned in the opening credits? We just see him driving to headquarters in his car, smash the resignation on the table 2 times with a lightning bolt sound like he's really mad, but no explanation of what it was about. This episode of the scientist and mind transference was only shown into the series and was not part of the pilot episode. Many fans of the series believe the episodes aren't in their original order because of this fact, that we aren't given all the facts from the beginning of the series. To this day, Patrick McGowan is a recluse. He never speaks about the series he made and had direct involvement with. What is most important to say about this series is the fact that if you want to know all about who the prisoner is, you should watch the series Secret Agent Man. This was the series that preceded The Prisoner, though you never are told that by film historians or critics of the series. Harland Ellison did a synopsis of the series before he died, and he left even more questions about the show than he answered. Good Times Home Video released a VHS tape in the 1990s called The Prisoner Companion, which also gave an overview of the series. This too left many more questions than they answered about the series itself. I have never seen the entire series because most times, you can only watch the show on cable or television. Oddly, A&E Home Video only released the series once and it has not been marketed again since. I would think that Patrick McGowan felt that his other work on Secret Agent Man was more to his liking than The Prisoner. The series only lasted a season or 2, but maybe he felt the series didn't accomplish what he had originally intended for the series in the beginning. The only episode of the series that showed the prisoner going to a western town was originally banned by CBS because they implied the show used mind-altering drugs, which today is relatively easy to buy anywhere thanks to Barack Obama legalizing marijuana. Most believe the episode was banned because at the time of the show's airing on television, westerns were very popular in America. This wasn't true in England, where the show was also aired. They thought maybe ITC was making fun of westerns and that's why they made this episode. Many other episodes also showed the leaders of the village using mind-altering drugs as well, so that can't be a legitimate reason for banning the episode. If you notice, I am using a lava lamp as my background. In the series, this was the overlying object that you saw everywhere in the village. In number 2's lair, we saw a lava lamp on his view screen. What was the significance of a lava lamp? For one thing, they are very tranquil and make most feel relaxed. This is what they wanted every number in the village to have: complacency. In today's world, lava lamps are very popular again because when you have marijuana to puff on every day, you already feel totally wasted anyway. The second reason for a lava lamp was because these were relatively new on the market and they wanted to promote the idea that if you were stressed out, get a lava lamp and chill out. In every room you saw in the village, somewhere you saw a lava lamp. What's a lava lamp made of, you ask? It's a kind of wax that reacts with a liquid, and as the light heats it, the wax melts and creates all those funky patterns which makes most on pot or heroin freak out. Also note this fact, the rover itself showed these same kind of patterns whenever they activated it underwater. Was that subliminal suggestion to relax when this rover was the instrument of death to anyone who was attacked by them? I have always wondered, what creature made the sound of the rover or weather balloon? These were the guardians who had lethal force to make certain every prisoner did as they were told. Maybe the sound was an elephant. They use an elephant to make a TIE fighter sound in Star Wars though. Could it have been something else? I can't answer that question. Let us remember also that Patrick McGoohan did another type of prisoner story when he portrayed the warden at the Alcatraz prison, released by Warner Brothers in 1979. It also starred Clint Eastwood as an inmate who conspired to escape from Alcatraz with two other inmates in 1962. Shortly after the prison break, the warden was fired and the entire prison was closed around 1963. Was that a coincidence that Patrick McGoohan would want to star in a role that had some reference to his work on The Prisoner some 11 years prior? He was as short-spoken in this role as he is still remembered for the Prisoner series. Another film most forget that Patrick McGoohan had done was the 1963 Walt Disney film, The 9 Lives of Thomasina. His daughter finds a cat that apparently died from a disease, which is when he tells her she had to get rid of it. A woman finds the cat and nurses it back to health. In the process of the story, McGoohan and the woman fall in love, and at the end of the movie, he comes full circle with the cat and his daughter, who blamed him for the cat's death. His portrayal mimics many aspects of his role on The Prisoner. Indifferent, uncaring, unemotional are all descriptions of McGoohan's character, John Drake of Secret Agent Man. One point that must be mentioned about McGoohan is that most don't know he was originally considered for the role of James Bond, 007. Sean Connery won out on his bid for the role, and since that time, perhaps McGoohan still regrets that decision. He was very much a 007 character in Secret Agent Man. Perhaps independent television company offered him a chance to do a role similar to James Bond when they wrote the storyline for Secret Agent Man, then later doing The Prisoner, a kind of sequel to Secret Agent Man. McGoohan's life has been mysterious because of how little we know about him even now. Patrick McGoohan also appeared in an episode of Columbo called Identity Crisis. This is something no one knows about Patrick McGoohan. He confides in Columbo that he wore a hairpiece. I never would have suspected that he wore a hairpiece because it looks so natural. Could this have been just part of the plot, or did Patrick McGoohan really wear a hairpiece? I would think the village was created just for John Drake himself. Everyone, everything, was made and placed in the village for his comfort. There was no such thing as individual people or numbers, they all were there as background for John Drake himself. The village was entirely paid for and functioned for the government to watch, listen, and interact with John Drake himself each and every day. In the pilot, they mentioned senior numbers who were taken care of for the remainder of their natural lives. That was a farce because they were just a sideshow to make him believe he would be taken care of too when he got too old to function in the village. The more you watch The Prisoner, the more you see the obvious. He was the only one who was given top priority from the leadership. He was constantly prodded to find ways of cracking his will. You didn't see that from any of the other numbers. They were putting on a show for him. They weren't there as agents but as stage props to appease his feelings of entrapment. I never understood why, if he complained about something, they didn't try accommodating him. Like the radio that never stopped playing, he stomped it, put it in the refrigerator, etc. They never tried getting rid of it, since he didn't like listening to it. Whenever the television was used, it was number 2 talking to him. It just came on by itself, as though they were just waiting to activate it whenever they wanted. He didn't control when it was turned on, they did. Those subtleties weren't something you saw when you watched it, you already were horrified that he was there and he was being manipulated by a socialist government. Today, 2019, it sounds exactly the same in America. You watched through high-definition television, you are listened to on your smartphone. We could learn a lot about our world today by watching The Prisoner. Maybe that's why we can't find it on DVD anymore. They don't want to make the similarities too obvious. Maybe they've paid off Patrick McGowan to say nothing to anyone because they already are putting his premise into action in America. It would be scary, but now nothing scares people anymore, do you notice? We have been so desensitized by the government, nothing bothers us anymore. People are killed every day, we just shun it off like there's nothing big going on. We attack whoever the government brainwashes you to. They never bring up Obama at all, unless he's planned to make a public appearance. Then they flood to the site to bow down to him, literally kissing the ground he walks on. What kind of idol worship is that? The Prisoner is a series that will never be totally understood because the creator and the actor won't talk about it. We have tried in this video to give our own impressions of what The Prisoner means to us, anyway. We hope you have enjoyed this program and we ask if you enjoyed it, subscribe, like. Come again and look for newer videos, until the government silences all of us who speak out against the socialist government.
In the village. What do you want? Information. It's a question of your resignation. Top secret. State secret. We want information. Who brought me here? Information. Whose side are you on? Information. You get it, by hook or by crook, we will be seeing you.
The Prisoner. Tomorrow night at 8, 5 Pacific on the Sci-Fi Channel.
His name is Omran Daknesh, just 5 years old, and his feet barely hung over the edge of a seat in an ambulance. Dazed, he didn't cry as he wiped away blood and the dust from a building that collapsed around him in an airstrike. His silence somehow reminded the world today of its silence in the face of the atrocities in Aleppo. Omran was pulled out alive Wednesday. 5 other children died when the building they were in was hit during the relentless Syrian-Russian offensive on rebel-held areas in Aleppo. The image of Omran's face spread like wildfire on the internet. One tweet called him the real representative of the Syrian people.
Stop killing Syrian innocent people, civilian. Our children need to live in peace.
The doctor who treated Omran said today there were many more severe cases. no one is paying attention to.
We need to protect our hospital, our doctors, our medical workers from airstrike.
Omran is recovering. His family now wants to escape. The same choice another boy's family made a year ago, Aylan Kurdi, whose body washed up on a beach. He too was a symbol of Syria's youngest victims. Now there's a new one. Tomorrow there may be another. Richard Engel, NBC News.
They've reported from around the world, challenged the powerful, and they bring all of this to every story that breaks.
We've got breaking news, and it's good news.
And touches your heart.
How do you even say thank you? Thank you is not big enough.
I made this.
The images shocked the world. Relentless bombings. Stunned survivors.
Apa yang ada?